smoke from burning churches. It was just like unbelievable.
An ELN student caught in the middle of a terrorist attack in Niger. Our exclusive interview with him coming up. ELN students come from nearly 50 countries around the world. But how do they find a small liberal arts college in North Carolina?
I should come more, because it's so much fun.
And ELN Midday plays with some pups. Our Paige Caruso spent time with some furry friends. We'll have those stories and more coming up on ELN Midday.
Good afternoon, ELN. Welcome to ELN Midday. I'm Marcella Hawkins.
And I'm Mackenzie Roberts.
We start the coverage of last night's State of the Union. President Obama delivered the annual address last night. He said the country was ready to turn the page on the last 15 years of war and economic uncertainty, saying, quote, "The shadow of crisis has passed and the State of the Union is strong." Obama outlined an agenda for his final 2 years in office. Under a broad theme of middle-class economics, he explained an agenda that includes making community college free, requiring employers to provide paid sick leave, and increasing the minimum wage. The speech included a pledge to continue to fight terrorists at home and abroad, even as combat missions end in Afghanistan and Iraq. For those keeping score, this is the first time the words Instagram, lesbian, or transgender have been used in the State of the Union address.
And to get the ELN community watching the president's speech across the street, the Oak House held a viewing party last night. Our Brianna McClellan was there to get the ELN reaction to the State of the Union.
While some may have come for the beer, others came for Barack. Instead of the usual sports programming, last night the Oak House TVs were tuned in to the State of the Union address.
In opening the business, I wanted to really try to connect to the intellectual climate in the, at the university. To be a place where people can enjoy wine and beer and watch the State of the Union address, because that's not something you can do across the street per se.
Roughly 30 ELN students watched at the coffee shop, including senior Liz Bailey.
I think it's important to start taking steps and holding events like this, even if they're off campus, not necessarily sponsored by the university, but it's part of the general community, just to kind of give people the opportunity to foster that climate and do it with peers.
The State of the Union lasted just shy of an hour and generated more than 2.5 million tweets under the hashtag SOTU. Brianna McClellan, ELN Local News.
And the Oak House wasn't the only place where ELN students were engaged with the State of the Union. From the Pendulum to the Huffington Post, ELN 2014 graduate Gregory Honan is writing on the national platform, this time on the president's big speech. Honan, who works as a staff assistant at the Institute of Politics at Harvard University, wrote an article called "Will Obama Be Lincoln or Everett?" published by the Huffington Post earlier this week. The article analyzed trends in presidential speeches. You can check out Honan's piece on our Twitter or Facebook page. Continuing our Martin Luther King Jr. coverage this week, a special college coffee was held in his honor on Tuesday. The event started with a traditional dance by the African American Dance Ensemble of Durham, but ended in something unexpected. Our Corey Shegda has that story.
Dancing, singing, and drums filled McKinnon Hall on Tuesday, and then silence.
If we have to start small and work our way up, that's what we're trying to do.
Junior Cassidy Stratton helped organize the nonviolent silent protest to fight against the court rulings involving Michael Brown and Eric Gardner.
I just hope that, people will see this and be inspired to join our movement.
The protest was second of its kind, organized by ELN students. The first took place in December at ELN's Luminary celebration. Sierra Martinez took part in the movement.
We thought that this was something that Dr. King would honor and what he would do as well. We don't want to wreak havoc. We don't want to make any harm, but we do want to get our message across.
And across the university, students like Junior Amani Mobley will continue to fight.
This is the beginning. This is not we're going to do this and then it's going to be over. We're not going to stop until there's change, because Dr. King didn't stop, so why should we?
Corey Shegda, ELN Local News.
In the future, they also plan on partnering with other schools or departments. Stratton says that they do not know when the next protest will be, but they can happen at any time. The university's remembrance of Dr. King continued with a screening of the independent film Dear White People. This award-winning movie follows a group of students who fight to make a change in both campus life, school politics, and race relations. Following the movie, the audience held a discussion on changes regarding diversity and discrimination since Dr. King's time.
Very different today. I think there's moments when I think it's more dangerous today because it feels so normal for people to have certain privileges and for others not to, because there is no outright discrimination.
And joining us are two of the organizers of yesterday's events, Mia Walkins and Cassidy Stratton. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So we just want to kind of continue the conversation and talk about how your events impacted ELN's campus. So to start off, why a die-in and why Dear White People? What were your thoughts behind those ideas?
Well, as many people already know, there was a silent protest during Luminaries that a number of students participated in. I was abroad at the time, but when I did return to campus, Sierra Martinez, who is a senior, and Jonathan Glover, who is a junior, reached out to me and asked me if we wanted to plan a die-in. And so that's what happened. It was kind of short notice, all the information, but there's no better time than now to, you know, really join the movement of Black Lives Matter or We Can't Breathe, whichever movement we're fighting for. So that's why yesterday was the best time for us to do it.
Yeah. And so with Dear White People, what was your idea behind that screening and that movie in particular?
I wasn't the key organizer in the screening of Dear White People, but I was one of the attendees there, and just watching the whole film with all these people. The room was packed, was great, because it really showed so many people how the movie sort of reflected life at ELN for many different other people of different backgrounds. And we had this whole conversation at the end of the movie, and so many people had all these perspectives that related so well to the characters in the film, and that just mirrored their lives here on campus, which was also a way of bringing awareness, but also it was a bit frightening to see that how, like, wow, this fictional film actually brings some basis in reality for people of color, for non-people of color, for all types of students and faculty on campus.
Wow. So would you say the discussion kind of prompted some new ideas of new things you can be on the lookout for at ELN?
Yeah, I definitely believe that the discussion that we as a whole, the student body that was there last night, was like, how do we talk more about diversity? What more steps can we take to expose everyone to Dear White People, or to expose everyone to more like protests or sit-ins, or more information? Right. It's just more of finding a way of distributing knowledge amongst the whole student body, majority of student body as a whole, yeah.
Yeah. And as you ladies probably know, this year was the 50th anniversary for the Civil Rights March from Montgomery to Selma. And so for college students, that's kind of not our era. How do you make this generation care about that?
I think just encouraging people to go see Selma or get involved. Last year, I'm a leadership fellow, so last year I took the civil rights course, and we went and we marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge that Selma's really based off of, or one of the areas. And it's just really inspiring, and just telling people your stories. Like, even though that was last winter term, I still am talking about it until today. And I think people really appreciate it and know that I have a personal connection to it. And as my friend, then I can give you a personal connection. So yeah. Okay.
And so, and being in Selma, do you feel like seeing the movie, or if you're gonna see the movie, that'll have a whole new? Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty tough. I'm going with the Center for Racial and Diversity Education, I think, CREED. I'm going on Thursday with them to see the movie for the free screening, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, well, very good. Thank you ladies so much for being here. We really appreciate it, just to keep these conversations going on college campuses.
Yes, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. Now in studio is Kaylee Tracy to tell us what's happening around the world. Kaylee?
Thanks, Mackenzie. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accepted an invitation from Speaker of the House John Boehner to address Congress next month. Boehner called the Prime Minister a friend of America who will discuss threats from radical Islam and Iran. This comes at a time when President Barack Obama and Republicans are at odds concerning additional sanctions on Iran. The newest video released by the terror group ISIS shows 2 Japanese men being held as hostages. Jihadi John, a suspected English citizen, demands $200 million for the hostages, the same amount Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe offered in aid to countries affected by ISIS. Jihadi John gave the government until 12:50 a.m. Eastern Time Friday to pay the ransom. According to Japan's chief cabinet minister, Japan plans to negotiate with ISIS through a third-party country. Yemen rebels have taken over the presidential palace and are holding the president captive. This comes after the Shiite Muslim group, the Houthis, have taken control of large parts of Yemen, all but the presidency. It is unclear who is in power in Yemen, but Houthi leaders have not yet claimed rule of the government. And now an update from around the world in Niger. At least 10 people have been killed and more than 50 churches set on fire since protests started over Charlie Hebdo's depiction of the Prophet Muhammad on the magazine's cover. Charlie Hebdo released the latest issue with Muhammad after a terrorist attack on the magazine at the beginning of January that left 12 dead. ELN sophomore Keller Bisworm is in Niger now on a mission trip and has seen the riots firsthand in the capital of Niamey. Military servicemen escorted Briswam to the safety of the U.S. Embassy. Our Jackie Pasquale has spoken to Briswam.
And then 10 soldiers come out with AK-47s and surround our car. Yeah. And so my one friend pulls out his military ID and he explains to them. And so they're like, okay, and they leave. So like you could tell that they were like really on high alert.
There was good reason for the high alert with incoming news of more destruction throughout Niger.
But so we're sitting there and just getting call after call about churches burning and all of this. And so at the end of the day, 57 churches burned.
Houses and cars were being burned alongside the churches. Bisworm's own home was repeatedly threatened.
Some of our neighbors that were Muslim also protected our house. They actually came out with machetes and said, "You're not burning this house."
Bisworm had been visiting more than 300 children at schools and churches in Niamey since the beginning of January.
They know that us Americans come from houses with air conditioning and TVs. So they know that we came to Niger just to love them.
The rioters were not just targeting the missionaries, but other religious figures as well.
There's actually one pastor right 10 doors down that is on TV every once in a while, and he had left, thankfully, but they, when they were going to burn his church, they were yelling, "We have to crucify him."
Bisworm worries that the people of Niger will see these attacks and be discouraged by the destruction.
And so for me, it's just so sad, because of some ridiculous cartoon that has nothing to do with Christianity, these kids have lost a year of school, their school that was a Christian school.
Even after experiencing this violence, Bisworm stays hopeful for the city.
There's goodness that can come from it. And for that I'm encouraged.
Jackie Pascal, ELN Local News.
Safe and reporting his experiences in Niger on his blog. You can find the link and more information on our website.
And coming up, more than 70% of ELN students study abroad, but what about the students who study abroad here? We'll talk to the Director of International Admissions. And you're getting a look right now at today's weather. We'll take a look at the Phoenix 5-day forecast coming up.
A wise man once said, "It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood," and let me tell you, it couldn't be more true today here in downtown ELN. We've got totally blue skies. This morning, a little bit of clouds, but not anymore. I personally like to measure the weather with clothing rather than degrees, so even though it's 50 degrees, I'd say it's a long sleeve tee and jeans kind of day, if you know what I'm saying. So now we should stay like that for the rest of the day. It's gonna get down to the 30s, but you won't be feeling the freeze until later tonight around 9-10 o'clock. So now for that Phoenix 5-day forecast. Tomorrow, it's gonna kind of look the same as today. We're in the 50s, nice, sunny, great, but then Friday comes along and just ruins the party with rain. And then Saturday, probably going to shake off that rain with some AM showers, and then it's going to clear up later in the day. Sunday's coming back with that warm weather, so make sure you go outside, soak up that vitamin D while you can, because it's not going to stick around all weekend. So back to you guys, Marcella.
Thanks, Ashley. If you're looking for a creative way to let your friends know where you are at all times, Snapchat has you covered. Snapchat recently introduced geotags seen here. The geotags allow you to add a picture to your Snapchats showing your location, and now you can create your own for any location. The process is simple. Go to snapchat.com/geofilters, then upload your own design and location. One of our reporters created an ELN geotag, but it is still being approved at Snapchat. We'll let you know on our website when the geotag is available to ELN students.
ELN's international student population is made up of almost 50 different countries. But how did they find out about ELN? Our Elizabeth Bilka sat down with the International Admissions Director to find out how.
The first thing we do is we actually travel. We actually physically go to other countries and visit schools.
Ebby Fuller has been an international admissions counselor for 25 years and just began working at ELN this year as Director for International Admissions.
Commitment to diversity was really impressive, and I really had not seen that. Many schools say that they want to diversify the campuses and make a difference, but really what's happening here at ELN is really significant.
Fuller also has a personal connection to international applicants. She was an international student herself.
Not growing up in the U.S., I was fascinated by the education here, and I did end up going to college in Florida from Venezuela.
She believes her personal experience has helped with her job.
I know what it's like to be on the other end and to really get the news, the exciting news, and the possibilities of what's coming, and the excitement of going to school in the United States.
Fuller says the process is all worthwhile when she's able to personally congratulate applicants.
I made some really fun phone calls recently to those that were admitted. There's nothing like delivering good news like that.
Elizabeth Bilka, ELN Local News.
Right now, 5% of ELN's population is international, but Fuller hopes that number will continue to grow. And coming up later in the show, we went to the U.S. Figure Skating National Championships and found one team whose challenges go farther than just their footwork.
One of Burlington Pet Adoption Center's puppies who's more than just a cuddle buddy.
Winter term is a great time for students to catch up on some much-needed rest. Most ELN students are only enrolled in one class for the month. While the majority of students look forward to winter term, local businesses have a different experience. Co-owner of the Fat Frog for the past 6 years, Jeff McKenzie, says that the business at the bar and grill has been a little slower than usual.
The amount of different faces you see is obviously much less, but I think because it's winter and there's less outside activities, the people, the customers that like to come in here tend to come in a little more during the winter term because there's not quite as much going on campus.
The Oak House Lounge Bar and Coffee Shop opened at the beginning of this school year has been a popular attraction for students and faculty, but has seen similar drops in business as Fat Frogs. According to the assistant manager, Alex Ward, he says 90% of their customers are ELN students, but he also says that winter term has slowed down.
I would say our normal profits for a day during winter term are a little bit lower than what we would see during the fall semester. And looking at the fact that there's about 1,000 fewer students on campus due to winter term abroad programs or internships, or just the fact that some students aren't on campus.
You're going to be meeting on camera one. 10 minutes down the road, things may be looking a little messy at Alamance Crossing for a while. That's because there are currently 4 construction projects in the area. Alamance Crossing will soon be home to a new restaurant, a new store, a new hotel, and some new neighbors. Developers have broken ground on a Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burger by BJ's, a Western clothing store called Boot Barn next to the Five Below, and a 6th-floor Drury Inn and Suites next to Olive Garden. Meanwhile, construction has continued on the Retreat at the Park apartment complex just over on Boone Station Drive. Also just down the road is the Burlington Animal Shelter. Our Paige Peroso is live outside McEwen with a special co-host. Paige?
Now, just down the road at the Burlington Pet Adoption Center, they're always looking for volunteers. And with winter term exams coming up, everyone's gonna need some relaxation. So instead of cuddling with Netflix, why don't you snuggle up with a puppy pal?
If you want to make an ELN student happy, give them a puppy.
I should come more, because it's so much fun.
But it's more than fun, it's therapy.
It's just a good way to come out here and clear your head. Even though you're playing with the animals, you do have a lot of time to think for yourself too and really figure out your priorities.
But playing at the Burlington Pet Adoption Center, the therapy is not just for the people, it's for the animals.
I think the best thing really is the time, because the animals really just need to be socialized so that they're adoptable and they're really accustomed to living with people and families.
And it's a win-win. Your stress will be relieved and you'll be doing a lot of help.
It's just nice because you don't have all the stress and everyone else's life going on around you. It's just you and that animal.
And with 3-hour classes and the harsh winter weather, sometimes all you need is a little puppy love.
So, Paige, tell us about your visit to the animal shelter yesterday.
Well, you get to meet a lot of people, probably like this one who just always wants to cuddle. But it's really fun because you get to go play with puppies and you get to laugh with them, and they're super fun all the time. And they just want the human connection. And then it's good for them too. Like I said, it's amazing for them to get this human interaction so they can move, right from the shelter to a loving home. It's just great to have them, and then it's just fun to see them too. Yeah.
Great.
Well, very good.
The future generation of ice skating took place this weekend at the U.S. National Skating Championships in Greensboro. Our Victoria Chiappa was there.
For juvenile, intermediate, and novice skaters, it was their time to shine. Like for this intermediate ice dancing pair, Maxwell Gart, age 12, and Molly Sesnick, age 13, who placed third.
Work has paid off.
Age wasn't their only obstacle. Sesnick lives in Maryland, while Gart is from Connecticut.
Considering how long we skate together, each month, I think it's pretty amazing.
Because of the distance, the two practice monthly.
It's harder, but it works out.
But the long distance is no match for the team's bond. Gart and Sesnick have been skating together for 2 years.
It only takes maybe an hour to get back into the gist of things.
The two admit it's not always easy, but it's all worth it.
It's fun though. It's nice to be able to know that they're there.
Gart and Sesnick hope to move up a level next year to novice and win nationals. Victoria Chiappa, ELN Local News.
Tomorrow night, the ELN men's basketball team looks to snap a 3-game losing streak when it takes on Towson in Alumni Gym. The Phoenix Hope freshman phenom Elijah Bryant, a 4-time CAA Rookie of the Year, regains his form offensively during the past 3 games. Bryant has just shot 25% from the floor. The Phoenix are 10-9 in the season. As for the Tigers, their men's basketball team is 8-11. The women's basketball team will also be in action tomorrow night, tipping against UNC from the beaches of Wilmington. The women's team, which is coming off a 58-43 win over Towson on Sunday, looks to continue its strong conference play. UNCW has lost 4 of its last 5 games and has sitting in 7th place at the CAA standings. ELN the Best will have hands full with UNCW's guard Kelva Atkins, who's one of CAA's best all-around players. That's all we have for sports this week. Marcella McKenzie, back to you.
And that's all we have for you this week. Have a great rest of the week, ELN.